More little man, when you talk about Floyd Mayweather, when you talk about De La Hoya, when you talk about Pacquiao, when you talk about Sugar Ray Leonard, when you talk about Roberto Duran, when you talk about Canelo Alvarez, when you talk about Terence Crawford, when you talk about Shakur Stevenson, I can name fighters for days that was smaller, that moved up in weight consistently and was successful.
Talk to him about Terence Crawford. He knows what he's in with. A lot of times, fighters who take smaller fighters, people think they're just doing it for the bag, right? And they kind of take it easy. They don't get as up in training for them as they should, and they can get upset. Canelo is sparring with Boots Ennis getting ready for this fight.
Max Kellerman SHOCK. The boxing world didn't expect him to reveal this about the Canelo versus Crawford super fight. That's right. As the fight of the year inches closer, the legendary analyst didn't just offer a pick. He lit a fire under the sport itself. From questioning boxing's toxic narratives to dropping a breakdown that stunned both fans and fighters, Kellerman's words are still being dissected. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, because this is gonna be a good one. And I once again have to ask, seriously, as boxing fans, how often do we see someone step into the ring 2 or even 3 weight classes above their natural limit? Terence "Bud" Crawford is doing exactly that. And Kellerman thinks the conversation around it has been all wrong.
These two fighters, Canelo and Crawford, were the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world consecutively. Because after the Bivol fight, people said, okay, well, how can you still call him pound-for-pound if Bivol just beat him? And then Crawford beat Spence.
From race-driven stereotypes to the myth that big men always beat little men, Kellerman's commentary struck a nerve. And it set the stage for one of the most controversial predictions of his career. The fight week grand arrivals in Las Vegas should have been pure celebration. 2 icons facing off under the bright lights of Mexican Independence Day weekend. But when Crawford made his entrance, boos rained down from the crowd. And that's when Max Kellerman raised the question that turned into headlines. Why is Terence Crawford, of all people, being treated like the villain? Here's a man moving up multiple divisions, risking his undefeated record, and taking on the sport's biggest star. Yet he's painted as the bad guy, while Canelo plays the hero. Kellerman didn't hold back, calling out the double standards that often appear in boxing, especially for black fighters and Cuban fighters. He even reminded fans that Crawford has never failed a drug test, never ducked a challenge, and is literally giving up pounds of natural weight just to make this super fight happen.
Best jab, Crawford. Best defense, Crawford. Nowadays, Crawford.
So why does the media still push the villain narrative? Kellerman called it what it is, outdated and lazy storytelling. And judging by the crowd's reaction in Vegas, those stereotypes are alive and well. But this wasn't just about boxing politics. Kellerman quickly shifted the conversation to the ring itself. And that's where things got even more heated. When it comes to skill, Kellerman made it clear Crawford checks almost every box. Faster hands than Canelo? Yes. Higher ring IQ? Yes. Pound for pound greatness? Kellerman flat out said there's a reason he still calls Bud the best fighter in the world. He praised Crawford's ability to switch stances seamlessly, confuse opponents with timing, and stay sharp even as he approaches 38 years old. Most fighters in their late 30s are slowing down, but Kellerman noted that Crawford remains disciplined, motivated, and most importantly, hungry.
Since vintage, it's been Crawford. But Canelo also is skilled and has a larger skeleton than Crawford. No matter what they weigh, Canelo's the bigger guy.
Yeah. Key advantage, according to Kellerman, is Crawford's adaptability. He can figure out opponents mid-fight, making adjustments that others simply can't keep up with. That's what allowed him to dominate welterweight, and why many believe he can shock the world at super middleweight. But Kellerman also added a warning. As great as Crawford is, there's a massive factor that keeps him from being the clear favorite. This is where the tone shifted. For all the praise Kellerman gave Crawford, he refused to dismiss what makes Canelo Alvarez one of the most dangerous fighters alive.
There's a reason that I think Crawford's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, right? Because I think, and Canelo once was. So even though Crawford is biologically older, Canelo has had the longer career. He's been fighting since he's a teenager.
First, the size. Canelo has been fighting bigger men for years, climbing all the way to light heavyweight. Against someone naturally smaller like Crawford, that weight and power advantage could be decisive. Kellerman admitted that no amount of skill can completely erase physics, especially when it comes to absorbing punches from a fighter as strong as Canelo. Second, the experience. Canelo has been in the spotlight since he was a teenager, fighting under enormous pressure from the age of 15. He shared the ring with legends like Floyd Mayweather, Gennady Golovkin, and Miguel Cotto. That kind of resume doesn't just prepare you for big nights, it makes them routine.
What Canelo has is size. Size and, as a result, physical strength and punching power. Canelo also has a great chin. A great chin.
Still, Kellerman added a twist. He hinted that Canelo may not be the same fighter he once was. After years of grueling wars and a schedule packed with high-level opponents, Kellerman suggested the wear and tear is starting to show. And that's exactly why his final pick caught fans off guard. And this is where Kellerman shocked fans with his final call.
Look at all the boxes. I'm going to check Crawford for most of them, if not all of them. But the reason Canelo is favored is because Canelo does a lot of things at a very high level, and he's a naturally bigger guy.
Terence "Bud" Crawford didn't just smile and nod at Kellerman's breakdown. He came with his own receipts. When asked about the old saying, "A good big man beats a good little man," Crawford shot it down instantly. "Who came up with that?" he asked, before rattling off names like Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Roberto Duran. All smaller men who dared to climb weight classes and ended up beating bigger legends. Crawford's message was simple. History is on his side more often than people realize.
Mayweather, and when you talk about De La Hoya, when you talk about Pacquiao, when you talk about Sugar Ray Leonard, when you talk about Roberto Duran, when you talk about Canelo Alvarez, when you talk about Terence Crawford, when you talk about Shakur Stevenson, I can name fighters for days that was smaller, that moved up in weight consistently and was successful.
Great fighters moving up in weight have toppled bigger opponents and carved their names into boxing's Hall of Fame. He made it clear he sees himself walking that same path. And then came the injury rumors. Some outlets claimed Crawford was carrying a shoulder problem into the fight. Crawford brushed it off with a laugh. "Where I got a shoulder injury at?" He doubled down, saying the whispers about him being slow, out of shape, or banged up were nothing but noise. For Bud, the only reality is stepping in the ring ready to silence doubters. His confidence was unshakable. He wasn't there to defend himself against narratives. He was there to remind everyone why he's a two-division undisputed champion, a fighter who cleaned out the lightweight and welterweight ranks. But as sharp as Crawford's words were, Kellerman's predictions still carried weight, because it wasn't built on hype, but on cold, calculated analysis.
Where I got a shoulder, I think people coming up with their own, antics. Terence Crawford got a shoulder injury, Terence Crawford out of shape, Terence Crawford slow, Terence Crawford. Yeah, they coming up with all kinds of stuff.
Still, Kellerman's pick carried weight, because he broke down the fight with brutal honesty. This was the moment fans had been waiting for. After breaking down both fighters' strengths and weaknesses, Max Kellerman finally revealed his pick. On pure skill, he gave the edge to Crawford. Hand speed, Crawford. Ring IQ, Crawford. Hunger and momentum, Crawford again. Kellerman even reminded viewers that there's a reason Crawford is often called the best pound-for-pound fighter alive, because he can adapt, dominate, and finish in ways most fighters can't. But here's where it gets complicated. Kellerman stopped short of calling Crawford the outright favorite. Why? Size. At the end of the day, he reminded everyone that Canelo is the naturally bigger man. He's fought and beaten opponents at 168 and even 175. Crawford, meanwhile, has lived most of his career at 147, with only a brief stop at 154. That kind of jump isn't just about skill, it's about physics.
How sure are you today that you win this fight?
I'm 1,000% sure now. You know, you gotta think. You know, going into a fight, you don't know what's going to happen. You know, you can get injuries. He can get injuries. Like, there's so many things that goes on in a boxing match. You know, the judges, the ref, like just everything, preparation. So you're not 100% sure. If a fighter say, "Oh, I'm 1,000% sure," you know, they lying.
Taking punches from a man who's naturally heavier, stronger, and used to fighting in that range could be the difference between victory and disaster. So Kellerman walked a tightrope. He leaned toward Crawford as the better all-around fighter, but he admitted Canelo's size and power make him the logical betting favorite. His exact words summed it up best. If you look at all the boxes, I'm going to check Crawford for most of them. But the reason Canelo is favored is that he's a naturally bigger guy. And just like that, the boxing world split down the middle. And as you'd expect, the boxing world exploded with reactions. The moment Kellerman's comments went public, the floodgates opened. Fighters, legends, fans, and analysts all jumped in, each with their own take.
Honestly, I feel like Canelo has he shows up when he wants to show up, but I think that Terence Crawford is a dog. I think that he's a great fighter. He has good defense, good offense.
Claressa Shields, the self-proclaimed GWOAT, didn't hesitate to back Crawford. She called him a dog, praising both his offense and defense. Shields admitted Canelo is a legend, but insisted Bud's skill set would shine through, even in a heavier division.
We got a couple more days and y'all gonna see Canelo fighting Crawford, so I ain't got no comment on who gonna win the fight, you dig? If Crawford do what he's supposed to do, he got an option. If he don't beat Canelo.
Jermell Charlo gave a more cautious view. On an Instagram Live, he said Crawford has an option to win, but only if he sticks to his game plan perfectly. Any slip, any moment of carelessness, and Canelo's power could shut the door instantly. On the other side,
that's not easy for Crawford. I mean, it's Canelo has the big advantage, but Crawford needs to manage well his body, his speed, and his power.
Manny Pacquiao kept it short and clear. He believes Canelo wins. Coming from a man who himself moved up through multiple weight classes, that opinion carried weight and raised eyebrows.
That's the $1 million question. When I watched Terence Crawford get rattled and rocked by Yorkis Gamboa, who's a natural 30-pounder, that to me is going to be a huge problem when he gets hit by Canelo.
Oscar De La Hoya went even harder, calling the matchup laughable. He mocked the idea that Crawford could handle a natural light heavyweight like Canelo, saying the media hype was ridiculous. To him, this wasn't just a challenge, it was a mismatch.
I say I'm leaning toward him. I love both guys. Both guys are great fighters. Well, I can't say I'm leaning. I am leaning toward Crawford. I am. And not because Canelo is not a great fighter, but because I don't know. There's a lot of I don't knows about Canelo. You feel me? So I don't know if Canelo is hungry. I know Bud is hungry. Bud stays hungry. I don't know if Canelo's hungry. Bud has never got the recognition for what he deserves like Canelo has. You understand me? So Bud is still hungry for that recognition. When you're hungry like that, a determined man, it's very hard to detour.
And then came Roy Jones Jr. Ever the thinker, Jones played it safe but insightful. He admitted both fighters are champions. Both deserve respect. But his key point? Hunger. Jones said if Crawford comes in hungrier, the upset is possible. But if Canelo still has fire left in him, It's gonna be a long night for Bud. Different voices, different angles, and yet one unifying truth emerged. But one thing everyone agrees on, this fight is historic, and nobody can write the ending yet. So where does this leave us? Max Kellerman shocked fans by calling Crawford the better fighter in almost every category, while still acknowledging the mountain he faces in the form of Canelo's size and power. Crawford, meanwhile, fired back with supreme confidence, dismissing myths, rejecting excuses, and embracing the role of underdog. On fight night, narratives won't matter. Neither will tweets, boos, or pundits' predictions. What matters is whether Crawford's skill can neutralize Canelo's power, or whether size truly is destiny inside the ring. So was Max Kellerman's shock pick genius insight, or will the fight rewrite everything we thought we knew? Only the bell will tell. Let us know your thoughts in comments below. Alright guys, for the best updates on boxing news, moments, events, and actions, subscribe to Knockout Updates and turn on notifications to never miss out on quality content. And check out our other videos. Until next time, peace out.